Hi, I'm Nathan Gibbs, and one of the Digital Futures Scholarship winners, able to attend the PBS annual meeting for the first time this year. I really want to thank PBS Interactive and Amazon for the opportunity. It was really a fun and fantastic week. This happened at the end of the fiscal year for us, so my department didn't quite have the travel budget to send me. So ultimately, this was the only way that I was going to be able to go, and for what I got out of it and how great it was, this was a really big deal. This was my first PBS annual meeting, so I didn't know exactly what kind of interactive sessions or panels there would be, but ultimately I was pleasantly surprised at how good it was. There was not a extremely large interactive presence, but ultimately that works well, I think, at a conference like this because it becomes more intimate for those of us that are there and gives us more time to talk through ideas in smaller groups. I was able to participate in the Big Think session, and it had a bit of an unconference style to it, which was good, especially for the interactive and digital folks. The PBS annual meeting is a really high production value, extremely polished, more than anything else I've ever been to. And this Big Think session was a little bit more open, which tends to work well, get the creative juices flowing, very interactive, and they ran it twice, once early in the week and then also again at the end of the week. The first session tended to gather the interactive staff and people who work in web publishing. And the second one, which ultimately I think was more interesting to me, gathered like general managers and people who are really leading stations. So that brought a different type of perspective into the session, which was really useful. And I was able to lead one of the tables that we had during the session, and it was just really nice to be able to get that kind of raw perspective from these different stations, and to also be able to throw in my own ideas and to get kind of that rich discussion going. So I think for me that was probably the best session because I was able to interact as a part of it. But it seemed to be pretty productive, I think, ultimately. In addition to the big ideas, there were a lot of practical things that I took home. One of them comes from a presentation that Jim Collins made, and he kind of gave us a new way of thinking about our work in terms of agile development or moving quickly, but also in terms of how we frame failure and success in the sense of sort of failing forward. He gave this example of if there was a ship bearing down on you and you have one cannonball, only enough gunpowder to fire once, that if you hit the ship and sink it, then you're safe, but if you don't, you're not. And that if you simply as quick as you can, pack your cannon and fire it off and miss, well, then you've lost big time and sort of wasted your one shot. And that ultimately the most successful way to approach that would have been to have fired off a couple of bullets, because in this case they're cheap, they're easy, you've got a few of them, and you fire off a bullet, it misses, fire off another one, it misses, another one misses, and then maybe finally the one hits. Well, now you know exactly which angle to shoot from, and you fire your cannon at that angle, so you've calibrated your trajectory. And I think that actually helped in our last session at the Big Think session, because we were able to sort of use that metaphor in terms of how we approach failure. We do need to make a lot of experiments and fire off those bullets, and the more important thing is that to make sure we don't fire off our cannon before firing off some of those bullets. So ultimately that was a really useful session in terms of how we think about it. Another session that I sat in on was about election tools, and it was led by Hari Srinivasan from the NewsHour. And he showed us some really impressive maps that they've produced, and they're all embeddable. They're things that we can use at the station level. And here at KPBS, we really have a huge news presence in the community, and these maps will be a big bonus to us in terms of how we can serve our community. One of the other things he highlighted was a subtitling app. It's a collaborative subtitling app called Amara. It used to be called Universal Subtitles. I'd actually seen it when it was Universal Subtitles and thought about using it, but Hari really kind of brought it to the front of mind again, showed some really great examples of how they were able to use it, and I'm going to take another look and see at how we can start using it to increase community engagement and also ultimately better serve the public with accessible video with subtitles in multiple languages. Another thing that caught me by surprise a bit was how great it was to see just the straightforward TV programming highlights, to see what was upcoming on PBS. I'm particularly interested in the independent documentary shows, and just seeing what kind of powerful storytelling was being done, and the really important stories that only PBS can show. Really kind of just brought me back to the core, brought back to the basics of, why I work in public media. All in all, really great week. It was fantastic meeting the PBS team, PBS Interactive Group, and especially getting to talk with the other scholar winners and to share ideas with station leaders about the types of solutions that they're coming up with for the same sort of problems that and challenges that we face as a station as well. So ultimately, really great time. Thank you again, PBS Interactive and Amazon. Look forward to next year.